Hi Tambra, let's go through your journey today. You've been having issues with dark energies in your home, bothering you when you're sleeping, keeping you up at night. I've had, the sounds of it is very similar to some of the experiences that I had actually for about 30 years. At one time I had 9 spirits coming to me, some holding me down, blocking out the light. It was much different than that. It was way more intense. It's very noisy, intense. It's one of those things that you just can't sleep at night. Like at one time, I had them come 3 or 4 times a night, 5 days a week, give or take, and I just wasn't getting any sleep, and it was very draining. So the turning point for me is when I was in that state, because when you're in that state, when you just go to sleep, or it could be in the middle of the night or whatever, where you're in that state because if you flick lights they don't work. I don't know if you tried that yet, but if you're paralyzed and there's something in a room, because one of the things with astral travel is when you go into that realm, part of the reason you're paralyzed is because you think like a human being. So you have to think like a spirit. You have to move like a spirit. So, and the understanding becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. I was able to do everything that I do in my journey state, bring it into that reality by stating it before you go to sleep at night, so you remember it while you're in there, because there'll be triggers instantly in your mind that you can bring into that state with you. So one of the times I was in the house, it was my own house, in my own living room. Actually, it was in my kitchen. I went from the bedroom into the kitchen, and there was 9 of them that were bothering me. And I said to God directly, I said, enough is enough. That's all I said. With the tension is that I'm just done with this. I really had no fear of them. It would just keep coming and coming and coming. They were relentless. However, if you're afraid, they become a lot stronger. They become harder to get rid of. So the key to controlling these beings and not allowing them to come around anymore is to have no emotions at all. Like, you can send love into them, but the problem is you need to be able to not also be afraid of them. Because as soon as you try to send love into something and you're afraid, the fear is going to override it, and that's what they play off and make it stronger. It's also the intention has to be absolute. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more perfect it is, the stronger the intention becomes. So as you say, I want you to leave. Well, if you have pure intention, they'll instantly leave, gone, but they'll come back. So how do you stop them from coming back? Because this type of being follows you. No matter where you go in the world, it can go anywhere it wants. So it's not necessarily attached to a house. Now, if this specific being is attached to a house, it is slightly different. But if I'm understanding correctly, that this will follow you no matter where you go. And that type of being is from a different realm, it's from a different dimension, and it feeds off of fear. And fear could be anger, frustration, just being afraid. It's just so many fear emotions that we kind of forget. Like, you think you're going to get angry at it. Well, that is also a form of fear, because anger comes from fear. So that, again, they'll keep coming back to feed off that as well. Anxiety, any type of emotion that creates a negative response, a negative action within yourself, they feed off that. So again, how do you get rid of it? In this state, that's what I spoke. I spoke that, and God spun me, and what it did is show the light within myself. I didn't know at first. I spun, and the whole room, the whole kitchen lit up, and all of a sudden all that noise and chaos was gone instantly. You know what I'm talking about if you've experienced the same thing I have. It's like it goes from really, really chaotic to absolute peace. It's like when you have that fan going full blast, and I use this a lot as an analogy, and you weren't even really aware it was really bothering you, and then you shut the fan off, and it's like, oh my God, that thing was annoying. The relief of that energy shift is huge. And that's a one sure idea of understanding that this is what I'm talking about. Is that type of chaos energy is very intense. And when it leaves, it's like the birds come out for the first time and start chirping. So what I did is, after I did that, I walked out into the living room. Two left immediately, and then 6 came from upstairs, and they worked together as a group of 6. They came up from the basement, and then one guy wanted to speak to me, and the other 6 were just in awe, just looking at me. So we walked over to the other one. We touched each other's hand. He specifically asked me if I could take him, like help them come out of the darkness, and that's kind of what I did. And then from there, I had a huge awakening of experiences and understanding through many years. And it was a big deal that moment, because all 9 of them never came back again. And anytime anything does come back, and I do get the odd visitor here and there, but they never stick around, because once you realize the power within you, and you allow that to be shown to them, you allow that to show that you have no fear of them. You have no fear at all, and what you have is this beautiful light within yourself. They will never come back. However, they might, but then send them away again the same way. And so how do you, Tambra, do this? How do you accomplish this? You actually go within your own heart every night and state that if these things come, I'm going to allow my inner power to shine through and show it to them, but have no fear. Because even having no fear, they're just going to go away eventually, because they're going to get bored, because they have nothing to feed off of, so they have nothing to pull from. So the stronger you are, the more you're going to have coming around you, and even if you're not fearful, even if you're angry or frustrated, that's the same type of energy, and they can feed off all that. So you have to almost have no emotion except pure love, or no emotion at all, or no fear of them. So if you have no emotions, you're just like, what do you want? They will be bored of that. And even if they say, oh, they want to bore your body for a while, they want to do this, want to do that, you just say, no. I'm in charge of my own self, my own body, my own spirit. I don't want you around anymore. Please go away. And they have to leave. They cannot stay. If they stay, it means you're afraid, or there's something within yourself that you have to let go of. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong if they do come back, because that is part of the learning that you're trying to overcome, to try to understand, and it is learning. These energies come to you sometimes from your higher self. They come from other parts, and sometimes they come from somebody that dislikes you. It doesn't matter where they come from. Ultimately, if you show no fear of them, and you send them away with the intention of them leaving, you shine light into them, whatever. But when you shine light into them, you must fill it with love, and it's got to be pure intent. You can't second guess yourself. Second guess yourself will make them angry. So that's just a bunch of information about how, but you have to orientate this towards yourself, because you're the one that has to learn this stuff. You're the one that has to learn to bring it within yourself to send them away. Because if I go in there, I can take spirits away. However, you have to prevent them from coming back. And if you are afraid, they will come back. So, but there's 2 examples. You could have one spirit come to one person, one come to another one. This person isn't afraid, they're going to grow claws, they're going to do horrible things to this person. This person's afraid, they're going to come and they're going to leave. And that's as simple as that. You have to not show fear. And that is the key. There's nothing to be afraid of. They cannot hurt you at all unless you believe they can. And it's not, I'm not trying to make you afraid. I'm just trying to get you to understand it's as simply as controlling your fear. So if the more you control your fear, the less power they have, and then they have no power over you whatsoever. But even them coming and waking you up is actual pain in the ass, because you get interrupted sleep. But I'm telling you, if you do this, you ask God to allow the light to shine from you. Say, I'm done with this beings. I need you to help me shine the light through myself. Show the spirits what my true light is, my true love within myself. I specifically just say to God, enough, please. I want these things to never come back again, or send them away forever. That might be all you need as well. And then he will show you, or she will show you, the ability to shine that light. And I had a really beautiful experience today, the actual feminine side of God. I've never really thought of it this way before. I never really experienced it in quite this way, and it was amazingly powerful, amazingly beautiful. And I'm gonna have to get a time to do a journey about this, and because it was really helpful for me to help let go of things. And it's something that I think will make a very interesting journey on itself. But back to the topic again. Believe in yourself. Ask for help. Ask God to help you. Whatever that is. If you don't believe in God, the source energy, your higher self, it makes no difference. So I'm going to go to this specific being that you're speaking of to see what comes of this. So I get there, and this happens more often than I would like. Just it happens quite a bit when I go to a space. Things get thrown at me, and I grab them, and some go through me, some go into me and push me against the wall. But I just allow it to pass through. I allow myself just to walk through that energy, and this is what happens. There's spikes, and I basically just allow them to pass through me. And this being is just going, it's like just throwing ridiculous amount of spikes at me, and I'm just walking towards it. And the spikes just pass through me. And I just keep walking towards the spirit. And all it is throwing tons and tons and tons of spikes at me. So I extend my energy out, make it more dense, and ricochet all the spikes away from me. And I just push through, and what I do is I create a shield that kind of goes in a point, and I allow that to go farther and farther in front of me, and I just keep walking forward. And I walk forward right into this being, and I push the energy right through it, not with the tension of stabbing it or anything, but the tension of just being face to face with it. So I go face to face with this being that's throwing all these spikes, and I just slam my foot on the ground, and I encase this in like a platinum box, so to speak. And there's a bright light that shines in behind me, that shines in each corner and above me and behind and where he was. So it lights up this place like it's really, really hard to see. But obviously it doesn't leave any shadows at all. In other words, it's just perfectly bright. And instantly the creature shrinks down really, really small. And I shrink down with it. And I actually cover up this part a little bit so it can be in shadow for just a little bit. And I just look at this being. And I say, why are you here? And why are you throwing spikes at me? I'm walking around it actually in a circle. And it has to slightly adjust because when I walk, the shadow I'm creating is covering it up, but just barely, so it has to just slightly move to stay within the shadow. Because it's like a vampire's, it burns a bit and makes it a little bit smaller every time. See, that's what happens when these dark energies, they seem very strong, but when you shine your light on them, they become very weak, insignificant. It doesn't say anything at all. This is not the one that is really bothering you. This is a distraction. And I say that you're no longer welcome here. And I give it ability to leave if it wishes. So it goes out the door from the bottom like a trap door out of this place into a white tube, and that tube drops down into a portal. And that one is left up to spirit to decide what to do. So I snap my fingers and I land back on the ground again. And I'm looking around. I walk forward. As I walk forward, I create green flower, like green grass with flowers blooming. And so as I continue to walk, I create this energy all around me. And it starts to bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom. And I notice that it starts to grow really tall and it gets really dark. And I just allow this to happen. And because literally the trees, everything just start to twist and turn, and all the green grass I was going starts to die and turn black and spiky, and I just allow this to happen. There's like a part in the thorns that are like just a pathway of thorns sticking in, and I basically like snap my fingers and the thorns part, and I shine my light extremely, I extend my light around me, and they just kind of move away from the light. They try to push down upon my light, but they just burn and disintegrate, and I just continue to walk forward. And as I'm walking forward, I'm parting the thorns, and they quiver away from the actual light that I'm emanating. I just continue to walk. There's like a doll here. I just want to walk over. The doll is now, it's like a small doll, and I pick it up, and it has like a rope attached to it. So I pull on the rope, and there's a trap door. And as I open the trap door, there's like a ladder that goes down that is very musty smelling. It's full of cobwebs. And obviously this is where I need to go. So I go down, just slide down the ladder like just really, really quickly, and it slides down really fast and ends up going into a damp place. About a couple inches of water on the ground here. And it is water, it's not tar. It is water. And it's very old, like being kind of underneath a boat in one of the old ships. It reminds me of that. And I'm walking along, and just the water splashing underneath my feet. And just down this corridor. I hear splashing periodically, like somebody running far away, running side to side, or like skittering of feet. And it comes from the front sometimes, it comes from the side, the back, up, below. It seems to be in different areas, not in the same spot. And it's almost like I'm in the bow of a ship, because it has a creaking sound and a movement to this space. I open up, I walk in, I don't open up anything, I walk into an area and there's like, looks like it used to, like, it looks like it's black gold, like gold coins scattered everywhere, but they're black, they're kind of nasty, and you wouldn't even have noticed them if you didn't notice when you walk on them. They make a noise underneath your feet. And there's a man sitting on kind of like a big chair. It's not a throne, but it's an old style chair, and he has something in his hand, and there's like treasure all around him, but it's dark and dingy, full of cobwebs. It's really moist down here as well, so the cobwebs are more in the higher up, and the bottom part is damp and moldy. It's kind of weird because it's like it's dry but also wet at the same time, depending on how high you go. So I'm walking towards this man, and at least I think it was a man. It was like almost like a pirate or something, but necessarily I don't think it's a pirate. It's just a man sitting on here, and he had something in his hand. And I look at it, and it's a black orb. I open it up, and it goes to fall to the ground. I grab it. Instantly, these veins come out of it and attach onto my hand. It starts to go up my hand, and I just allow the energy the ball to fall through me, and I just levitate the ball. And my heart gets really super bright and burns away all of the things that were going up my arm. I'm looking at this sphere, and it looks like almost like black tentacles coming out in every direction. And so I keep it within almost like a sun around me. There's a bunch of bright lights pointing at this actual orb. And the black tentacles they don't like the light, but they're still able to withstand the light. It's a bit stronger than most dark energies. It actually can withstand light. So this comes from a different place than the other one, for instance. It's a little different. I look at it, and it has like an eye looking out at me. And I just go into the orb, and I go inside it. I go inside the orb. I'm swimming in an ocean now. Very dark ocean. And I'm swimming and swimming and swimming. And I dive downwards until I hit near the bottom, like I just swim above just above the ocean floor, because when I do this, it creates sediment. But there's a reason why I'm doing this, because I'm swimming and the sediment is kind of blowing around me, and I start to spin, and I pull up all the sediment and I shoot it straight up out of the ocean. And I'm looked down at the sediment, and it's a big, huge eyeball. This is a massive thing. It's only big because I am small. If I grew, it would just be the size of a pea if I wanted it to be. So this thing comes right up out of the ocean, and it's a massive, it's like a squid creature, but it's more like a kraken or something along those lines. And it has but it's different because I'm basically sitting right where it's kind of like a beak. It is like a beak, actually. And it has one great big central eye and a bunch of smaller eyes, and there's tentacles going everywhere. I'm looking at this thing, and I touch its eye, and I go inside its head. And it's like a maze in here. I'm going 1,000 miles an hour, going through different mazes, different directions all around. This is crazy in here. And I ended up, interesting, I end up going into space, and it's like its brain, but I'm also inside its brain. But there's a place inside its own brain. It's like a nucleus sort of thing. And there's purplish pink energy coming from it, emanating from it, and it's surrounded by these beings that stand, and the energy hits them, And it's quite interesting actually, because it's like their energy goes into them and then they send it out to the rest of the brain. They know I'm here. They look right at me, and I walk up to one of them and I stand beside it, and it's like an it, I guess, because they're standing up like humans, but they're not humans. They have spikes down their back that can go like up and down if they want, and they almost look more like a fish. They have almost like they could be like reptilians, I guess, when I'm looking at them, and their spikes in the back go up and down. And the more I look at them, but they're more like a fish too. They're not really just reptilian. They're kind of a combination of both. It's like what a fish would be if it was able to grow on land. And they have their hands go outwards. They have feet and hands. They have lips and a mouth. So they're very humanoid as well. And this purple pink light is going into them, like they're holding their hands up like this, and it's going in through their hands into their heart, and then out up to the brain, and then out to different parts of this being, into this being. This is very unusual. Did not expect this, actually. You never know what you're going to see. I ask him, what is he doing, or what are they doing? It says experimenting, testing, to see the depths of the human mind and heart. That's what he says. But you do know that you're creating pain and suffering. He doesn't really understand what pain and suffering is. Not on the same level that we understand it. So I show him what it is like to hurt people. And instantly he stops, puts his hands down and takes a step back. He looks quite pissed at me, actually, and instantly everything kind of gets thrown off of balance, and they all put their hands down, and the energy that was flowing from this central small brain stops, and it turns black and turns to dust. It was more like a holographic image, I guess, than anything. And I look over where the brain was, and it is just like a point that goes up like this, that creates a holographic image. It's like a holograph. It's a machine. It was never anything more than that. They all come over to me and they're looking at me. They all felt that, every single one of them. It's like they were connected somehow, mentally. And one comes forward, she's a female, and she asked me what I just did. And I said, this is what fear and suffering, or pain and suffering, feels like. It is not something that is pleasant or anyone really wants to go through. And this is what you are creating. So the fear that you create in people is like of pain, and it makes people suffer. They don't mean to show, they test people's limits, and by testing people's limits, they push them to the limits, the extremes, and they learn from it, and they see nothing wrong with that. But I'm trying to explain to them, and I'll show them even more ways, and I show them what pain and suffering in the world is, and how there's people on this earth that are so against this. They're so against the pain and suffering, and they're so tired of it, the manipulation. And I look at them, beings like you can really help people to overcome the burdens, to overcome the fears within their own hearts. But instead you decide to create fear in people's hearts, instead of basically filling it with love. And I show the difference between the two. And I show them when love comes together, it overcomes even the darkest of fears, the darkest of wars, the darkest of suffering, and forgiveness. And they just look at me. And so what I do is I blow into an orb and I pass it to each and every one of them. And I say, this is what love really is, what love feels like. And this is what you should be spreading instead of fear and suffering. They each take the orb and they place it into the center, like into where this holographic image is. And they almost like they put it around it, like it's almost like they put it inside it. And it creates a pink energy, pure pink energy. And then they go around it and then they start experiencing it. And they just seem to be, they're actually crying. The tears are coming down their eyes. They're actually crying from this. This is so fascinating to them. And they stop and they just surround me like in a circle. And they go down on their knees, and the leader of them, the woman, comes forward and takes my hand. And she says that she is sorry. It's like they never even knew what they were doing on this level. And instead, we will spread this then. We'll experiment with love. Be careful, I said, because love can turn into hate so easily. They go back to the machine again and to put their hands back up, and they send energy through it again. And the heart, the pink, is like a pink heart now. Like it's super bright. And it's like they understand now, instead of working with their minds, they're going to try working with their hearts. And and the lights get super bright, super bright, and everything is like totally changes, and there's like a big massive pulse of energy that pushes me back, but not in a bad way, but just the energy just flows backwards and I go back in time. Back out of the forest, the trees, everything comes back to back to life again, and the grass shrinks down to a normal level. There's a little boy here. He takes my hand and he takes me for a walk by my finger. Just grabs my finger. It's like, can you just hold my hand? And he just chuckles and he changed it to hold my hand. It's funny how children always pick your finger so they can wrap their whole hand around and touch instead of holding your hand. To them, there is no difference. He takes me for a walk. And there's something in the sky. It's like a huge star, but it's really, really bright, and stuff are coming out of it, like the stuff like shining out of it. And I'm just looking at it. It's quite It actually comes right down in front of me and starts it's like the star just comes to Earth, and it's like a big firefly that is like dancing around. So I go to grab it in my hand, and I don't squeeze it, I just grab it, and it's shining really bright in my hand, and I look at it, and it's a fairy, a female, looking up at me with a smile. She says, "Do you believe in fairies, Tambra?" That's what she asks you. Do you believe in the light that we can give or shine inside your heart? When was the last time you truly believed in fairies? And she shows me a little girl who used to love fairies so much. And as she got older, the fairies weren't able to reach her anymore, even though they kept trying and trying and trying. They take me. She actually takes me by the finger like the child did. And it was a young boy, not a young girl. It was very specific. But this is a female fairy. And they take me to a field with a bunch of children. And they show me a field, and there's like children playing in it, and they're all playing with fairies. But when they really show it zooms out kind of like the world, and it shows that this field is the whole world, and there's kids all over the world can play in this field with these fairies. It doesn't matter where you are, you have access to this field no matter where you are. And this field has a big, huge central tree, where this tree is full of fairies. And there's kids playing all over the place. And it even shows me that some of these kids are old women, old men. Some are in terminally ill, some of them are not. There's every age group all throughout you, from 0 to as long as people can live here in this place. Climbing on the trees, jumping into creeks, and laughing and playing. And she asked me, when was the last time you came here and played with the fairies? They say they miss you. They miss your energy. They miss the love in your heart, the childlike nature. They go, no matter how old you are, the child within yourself should shine out. You should never allow it to fade away. You should never allow it to subside. No matter how hard things are, you should always remember the love of the fairy within your own heart. That's the key, they say, to overcome everything that up to this time. Overcome yourself by allowing the childlike nature within your heart to shine outwards, to laugh, to feel at peace, to feel love. And all the darkness will have no power. It will fade away like the night does when the day comes. You say, and it's really funny because she stands up and puts her foot in the ground really hard, and she goes, "We have a whole army," and she raises her arm out, and thousands upon thousands of fairies appear that are here to help you, Tambra. And she smiles and winks at you, and she flies over to you and looks you right in the eye, and she goes, "Thousands upon thousands of us are here to help you, to find the child within your heart again. All you have to do, she says, kick your heels together 3 times. It was pretty funny. Is ask. And we will help you. And I say, is that everything? And the fairy looks at me and says, is there more? Does there have to be more? Or could that just be everything that you need to do? I'm actually sitting on a rock overlooking a lake in these mountains, and I turn around and I'm on another lake with prairies as far as I can see. Then I spin around, I'm on another lake with rolling hills. I spin around and I'm on basically a beach. And I could spin and I could touch every single one of these spots, either all at once, simultaneously, or I could lean back and look up at the sky with the clouds, with the stars. It doesn't matter. You can be anywhere you want to be. You can meditate anywhere you want to be. You could become whatever it is you want to become. That the places of the ultimate dreams are within your heart. But you have to be able to walk through the doorways to get to them. You have to be able to stand on ridiculous lineups to wait just to get that one thing to set you free. How long will you wait in a lineup in order to be free? How long will you wait in that lineup before you are free? How long would you wait, Tambra? How long? Because if you only wait a couple of minutes, then you'll never be free. It could take months, years, a whole lifetime to become free of burdens. But if you think you could snap your fingers and the burdens are released, that is not really living, and then you're not learning. Life at times might seem exceedingly difficult, but it's how we deal with those issues, it's how we deal with the problems. It's how we overcome our choices, to flow with our choices, to move with our choices, is truly living, even if it takes us down paths that we don't want to go down. If you're going down a boat and there's rapids, do you go through the rapids or do you walk around them? That is a choice. That is a choice, is it not? I guess I was getting a little too relaxed there. Oh, sit back up. They're asking you, do you go through rapids or do you always walk around them? Because sometimes if you take the rapids, they'll take you to a different part of the river you've never seen before. What happens if you go down rapids and there's a pool, and the pool is full of gold, and you always walk around the gold, and you're wondering why you never become successful? So this is what happens if you go down the rapids and there's an absolute, unbelievable scene that you missed. And that scene must be seen in order for you to understand where to go next. Always going around the difficult things doesn't make them go away. It just makes them reinvent themselves. So the pattern is never broken. Sometimes we have to go through the rapids in order to move forward. Because when you're done with the rapids, you're more experienced, you're more able to move forward at a faster pace. And get to places much faster, even though it doesn't seem that way. But if you always go around things, you miss the learning that you need in order to go to the next level. And they say, this is one of the things that they're talking about. It's also related to your life, but it's also related to the issues that you're having with these energies. Because these energies are dealt with, you have to face your fears, you have to face the things within yourself, because if you always go around them, you'll never learn from them, and they'll keep coming back. Those beings were part of the problem as well. But what are those beings? Are they an alien race? They seem to be, actually. But why were they there? How did they get there in the first place? Because they're there because we invite them there. A part of our higher self wants them to go into our atmosphere so we can learn to grow. But they themselves get lost in the understanding of what is appropriate and what isn't. So when we overcome and show them a different way of doing things, it actually changes the reality around that experience in order for both beings to grow. So we teach them as much as they learn from us. So the being that has bothered you all this time, I'm standing in front of a doorway, a huge doorway, massive, massive, massive door. It is jet black, shiny black, and it's just like lit up with candlelight all around the rim of the door, the frame of the door. And I open it, and it opens into a massive chamber, and there's a lot of pain and suffering going on here. There's people that are completely dead and dying. The floor itself is full of rotting flesh. Is this what you want to see? Is what they ask me to you. Is this what you expect? It switches to a doorway that I open up, and it opens up to a plane. It's full of beings. They are suffering as well. They're chained. There's people, there's like, they're chained, they're being tortured. There's different aspects of an experience. But then when you go into where the pain and suffering are coming from, it's from other people. This is important, Amber, because this is where the being comes from. And the closer I get to it, the more I realize that it is chained. And I walk into the room, and it is chained to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 versions of you. Chains on this being that are attached to you. And you are not in this realm, you're in another realm. And the chains go through the realm from this dark place into you. And as you move, it actually creates pain and suffering to this being. So it in turn creates pain and suffering within you. And I go to the heart of this being, and I touch the heart, and I ask this being why it is chained like this to you. He just screams so loud, a loud gut-wrenching scream, and I go into the heart of this being. There's a lot of lifetimes of screaming that this being just I went through, to a part where there's a wide-eyed child looking through a crack, and it's like he's in a village and he's looking from underneath like a kind of like a bale of hay, and there's a little place that he can look out, and he's looking at the village is on fire and being burned, and he gets dragged by his feet and pulled out and picked up. This is really messed up because he gets pulled up by his feet, and a guy just reaches over his head and slams him into the ground, and the kid instantly falls unconscious, and he throws him into like a like a cart with a bunch of other boys and women. It's like it's caged, and so they spend weeks in this cage, and he has to watch after village gets raped and pillaged, and more people thrown in this cage till it's like literally you can barely move. This body are up against the bodies, everybody stinks, is filthy. So the wide eyes are now dark and dim. He looks down all the time, he doesn't want to look up. He barely has eaten, he's barely even, everybody's lips are chapped. And they come to a part where they ride, and it's like it rides over a waterfall, and water just flows down on everybody in this place, in this cart. And the waterfall is not like super powerful, but it's enough that it washes a lot of the dirt and grime, and it does help a lot to reduce the smell. And this continues on. He seems to be traveling for months. And then he gets chained. He's older now. He seems to be about 2 years older. And he's chained, and he's on a stage with all kinds of other children, and they're being sold. A big, ugly, fat man stands up and points at the young boy and throws a couple of coins at the guy, and the guy sets the coins in the boy. It gets taken, and he gets put into another cage and pulled away by this man, and he's smiling kind of greedily at the boy. He goes back to this big, huge home where he's taken and bathed and cleaned, and he's actually kind of looked after for a little while till he gets a bit older. But the man periodically just like gleams at this boy greedily, and this is not a very nice man, and he knows it. He can feel it within his heart, but he doesn't know what to do. He can't leave. It's like he tries to run away, but gets caught and get beaten really bad, and then after that the boy just doesn't try anymore. The boy is around 9 years old now, and the man brings him to his chambers one night, and from there on in does sexual pleasures for this man repeatedly over and over and over again. And the boy is lost, his heart sinks, he is like a robot, all life essence is drained from this boy. And he gets to become a man. He still survives through all the torture. And the boy screams inside, and it goes from one lifetime to another lifetime to another lifetime to another lifetime. God. Now he's chained to you. I see the wide-eyed boy looking at the scene as his mother gets killed, and then he gets dragged away. She was screaming in pain and was raped and murdered in front of the kid's eyes just before he got taken by the feet and knocked out and thrown into a cage. You had lifetimes with this boy, and this is one of them. And there's 8 lifetimes of pain and suffering that is attached to you by chains. That was just one of them. I place my hand on his heart, and he opens his eyes, and he screams, and there's like bats come out of his mouth. And I just take my hands, and I put one on his head. The bats just keep flying through me, they can't touch me at all. I turn all the chains into platinum. I turn the thing that he is attached to into platinum. I send energy. The chains go right deep inside him like anchors, so he cannot pull them out. I phase, I burn, like I melt away these metal, iron, twisted, dark, black iron. I just send love and light into him. I throw an orb up into the air. It spins and bursts into a massive sun, and it cracks open the ceiling and pulls it outward. And I allow the light of heaven to shine down upon this place. There's massive screams all over the place as people run from the sun and the light of heaven. And one by one the chains are released, and one by one the chains melt away. Ianasaya Oranaye Orasayano Iasa Oraye. The tears of heaven fall down upon this boy, this man, this soul. They fall upon him, And every time they hit, they transform the darkness into light. The tears go down, the chains to you as well. And you're able to let go of the chains. And each time the boy holds your hand and he smiles, and you both go into a field of lavender, a field of yellow flowers, a field of white flowers, a field of red flowers, of blue flowers, of pink flowers, of yellow flowers, of lavender flowers. And it repeats itself. And each one goes through a different type of flowers, so each chain goes through all the flowers and all the different colors. And you're rejoicing and you're dancing, and then the fields merge together into one. So the fields are full with all kinds of colored flowers. And the boy sits down and he gets lifted up by a bunch of fairies, and he grabs a hold of your neck and gives you a big hug, and he kisses you. Iyanayam, Orayanayam, Oranayam, I Nasayo, Iyanayontai, Ayanayo, I Nasayo, I Nokori, Naya Nokori, Iyanasayo, Oranasaya, Nakoraneye, Asanakorama, Iya Nayo, Naya. Ori Nokuraya, Norayanaye, Nokurasayon, Nakayako, Nasaye Sama, Ori Naka, Nopaye Antai, Naturayan, Nakaya Koro, Nisiyama, Nokura Sate, Nokura Manai, Nasatayora, Nati Koto. A man stands where once was a dark energy, a twisted form. You are standing around him, 8 points of light and eight young boys in your arm. You walk up to him, you all merge into one. You take him by the hand, and he becomes your child. You walk up a bright stairway. You take one look back, and you walk through a doorway of love and light, of golden light, The door slams shut and a wave flies through this whole place. And becomes silent again. Anyway, Tambra was your journey. It was very powerful and sad at the same time, but beautiful. When you have the energies that switch, that transform, you feel it within your own heart. I feel it within my own heart. And it makes me a stronger, better person because of it. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening.